Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. We are looking to alleviate poverty and eradicate hunger as Zimbabweans. And one way we can do that, which is inclusive, is through agriculture. You would find that approximately 67% of our population here as a country makes a living off of agricultural ventures, which is why we bring you week in, week out an episode on agribusiness. We'll be looking at business fundamentals, business principles, incorporating them in agriculture to ensure that we are running lucrative and successful ventures. In this very episode, we are coming to you from Mashonaland West. We are here at Portland Estates, and we are going to be looking at Brahman Production, their enterprise, their Brahman enterprise, amongst other livestock ventures that they have here. To discuss this, I'm taking the liberty of inviting the owner, John Crawford, who will be taking us through his head, what it takes, the background, and what his management styles are, including his employees, his team he works with here. John, thank you so much for inviting us to your premise.
Thank you, Wadzana. Good to have you, and welcome to Portland Brahmans.
Thank you so much. Looking at your enterprise, you introduced, rightfully so, as Portland Brahmans. Can you take us through a brief background? What is it like for you? And maybe just enlightening us on maybe the size of your head, etc.
Thank you, Wadzana. Yeah, well, Portland Brahmans started in 1990, so we've been going for 34 years now. My late father, he purchased two existing Brahman studs, and we've continued breeding with those two studs now for the last 34 years. We currently run a herd of 60 Brahman females. As you can see behind us, they're different colors. We don't focus on red or gray. We focus on beef production.
Okay.
And we have been using, for the last 30 years now, we've been using genetics from a breeder in Australia, Alf Collins, and his sole focus is on fertility.
Okay.
So fertility is economics.
Okay.
If a cow doesn't have a calf every year and she misses a year, she is not producing, she's not paying her way.
We'll look at fertility in detail as we progress in our episode. But at this point in time, I would want you to talk to us in terms of the level of investment. You would find that most people refer to cattle farming as a long-term investment. Can you maybe emphasize on that, given that you would find that people want to get into cattle production as the ego boost? They think that the moment you have cattle, you are going to be driving the latest car. It's associated with wealth. Talk to us in terms of cattle production as an investment. It's a long-term investment, yes, but can you emphasize more on that?
Thank you, Wadzana. Yes, it's a very long-term investment. What we put into money, what we put into breeding now today, we'll get a calf next year. We will sell that calf the year after. If we're lucky, maybe 2-3 years time, we'll sell progeny from that calf. It is a very long-term process, and it takes a lot of commitment. The cattle industry as a whole takes passion. If you don't have passion, you just want to do it for the wealth or for show or for ego, it's not going to work.
Okay.
You can have good prices today. Tomorrow, reality will come in, and you'll be losing money.
Just a brief description of the physical appearance or the desired characteristics that you might want to highlight of your Brahman stud.
Thank you, Wadzana. Yeah, so the Brahman breed as such has got its standards of excellence, which are judged and appraised. Those are all good. Again, they're for the show ring and they're for the ego and for bragging rights. For me, it must be a Brahman. It must look like a Brahman. Must have the characteristics of a Brahman, but most importantly, it must produce a calf for me as frequently as possible. Our particular Brahmans are of a slightly smaller stature than most of the rest of the country or rest of the world, and this is basically because they've adapted to a harsh environment and they can survive in tough conditions. The Brahman is known for its adaptability. They adapt to most conditions worldwide. They can adapt to very tough and arid conditions too. And arid doesn't mean a desert; it means a desert of nutrition. So if we don't feed them, they're gonna suffer. But the Brahman generally is a good breed for that. And
Okay.
it also produces its advantage in Zimbabwe is its crossbreeding potential. It crosses very well with most other beef breeds
Okay.
available.
Looking at issues surrounding fertility, how soon can you say this female can meet with the bull and produce maybe a calf?
The ideal for any breed, any beef enterprise is that the heifers, once they're born, they're raised so that at around about 2 years old, they take the bull. They would need to be, on an average for most breeds, need to be around about 300 kgs to get there. And then, so they have their first calf by the time they're 3 years old.
How do you control diseases that might come during reproduction?
Sure, those are very expensive problems to encounter when you've gone to all the effort of getting a cow pregnant, carrying it all the way through to birth, and then the calf is born dead. That is an incredible loss, and not just an economic loss. It's a personal loss too. Yeah, it's a passionate loss because you put your effort in, not just your money. So we don't have any measures in place, but we have selected our cattle over the years so that they produce small calves at birth, which don't so they don't encounter calving problems.
Okay.
And if we do have a calving problem, we will sell that animal so that we don't have it again next year.
On that note, viewers have come to the end of the first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. Today, we are coming to you from Mashonaland West, Makonde District, at Portalet Estates, where we are looking at the Brahman stud that John Crawford here is managing as an owner. Now, viewers, encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Zanai Manyore, so 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Zanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments and suggestions. They are most welcome to us. Our YouTube channel is Agribusiness with Zanai. We are also now available on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Agribusiness 110. Make a follow-up on these discussions that do take place at our LinkedIn profile. It's Zanai Manyore. Now, John, we are here in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you, Zanai. Thank you.
Just an emphasis on your feeding regimen. Either do you use supplements? If not, what are those nutrients that you look at that are essential for the development of your Brahman?
Thank you, Zanai. I suppose just to cover on different seasons of the year. This time of year, winter, particularly here in the Highveld, Mashonaland area, our natural grazing is very low in protein. So generally most farmers will supplement protein in winter.
Okay.
And then in summer, when the grazing is green and good and nutritious, it does lack a bit of phosphate. So most farmers will supplement a bit of phosphate.
Okay.
We here on this farm with this herd haven't used any supplement whatsoever for the last 15-20 years.
Okay.
We have done this mainly because of saving costs, but what it has also brought out to us is that those cattle that can survive these conditions can survive anywhere in Zimbabwe.
Okay. Now, I want us also to look at issues of identification that I understand that they are essential when it comes to record keeping, and even for security purposes. You might have thieves here and there and you need a mode of identification. What is it like in your stud? I understand that some people have branding, some people have tags, and also just educate us or enlighten us on the details that will be on the brand or on the tag. What is it like for you here?
Thank you. Yes, obviously stock theft is our biggest concern and the reason for identification. We do use two forms of identification here. The first one being the ear tag, and it's a visual for us. It's something we can see at a distance, and we know that this one's not tagged. We can see the number from a distance, and we know what the animal's number is. but it's not a permanent form of identification.
Okay.
Because if somebody steals the animal, they can just cut the ear tag out.
Yes.
So it's not something that we can guarantee that we can save that animal.
Okay.
But what we do, we brand our animals. We put our own brand on. We put our farm brand here is PE for Portlet Estates, and then we put the year of birth underneath that. So it'll be PE 20, and then underneath that the 9 for the ninth consecutive calf born in 2020.
Okay, can you just touch on the zebra that I'm seeing here? What happened? People, I know they are very curious. In your Brahman head, you're also having a very friendly zebra you are having a good time with.
Yeah, I'm touching on it already. But yeah, the zebra was an orphan from in the area. We do have a few wild zebra around.
Okay.
It was orphaned by its mother, and we raised it in our dairy herd with the dairy calves, so it got milk out of a bottle every day.
Okay.
And she now thinks that she is a mombe. she has got no equine needs in her life. She lives with the cattle all day long, every day. She grazes with them. She comes through the dipping procedure. She gets injected. She gets weighed.
Okay.
She is a cow.
Speaking of your dipping schedule, can you maybe highlight some chemicals that are essential that you alternate when it comes to dipping, and also your dipping method? Is it the spray race? Is it our traditional dipping? And also the frequency of dipping depending on the season that we will be in as a country.
Thank you. Yes, as with dipping cattle countrywide, dipping is to control our ticks, and our ticks is our biggest cost of deaths and sicknesses. And those sicknesses you mentioned earlier about abortion, those sicknesses can cause abortion too. So it's something that we need to be on top of.
Okay.
So tick control is very important in the cattle industry. So we do use, and you mentioned again about alternating. We use different chemicals for our dipping. We do use both the spray race, where we use different chemicals from different companies there. We've had fairly good effect from the chemical called Tick Guard.
Okay.
That has worked fairly well with us on the blue tick. Blue tick is one of our most challenging ticks in the country. It is most of the ticks in the country, the blue ticks in this country are resistant to all acaricides, all types of tips.
Oh, okay.
So it is very hard to control the blue tick. But the other one we use is we use porons.
Okay.
And we have used different porons from Deadline. Is a very, very good one. It's a bit expensive, but it does work. Spot On is another one that work. But we do alternate between those ones and other ones as well.
Okay, now I want us to look at issues surrounding inspection. You are a breeder and you are often having inspectors coming to inspect your herd. What would they be looking at if they say, we are coming for an inspection, John? What are those key fundamentals that you might want to highlight that they'll be looking at to say, you have succeeded, you have passed? What boxes would they be ticking?
I suppose if our main inspection side comes from our government veterinary services, where they are obviously number one thing that they are keeping on top of is ticks. So we don't want to have ticks, not because the inspector is coming tomorrow. We don't want to have ticks because the cows are going to die. That's our main focus, to keep the animals clean. So they'll be coming to check on that. They'll be checking on our grazing, and to ensure that our cattle are in a good state of health.
Looking at viability, at what age or periods would you say that this female is now reached? In humans, we have menopause. When it comes to cattle, where you'd say maybe this one I should send it for slaughter, it's no longer viable for me to keep maintaining it or to keep it within the herd. It's no longer necessary. At what age in years would you say this bull is no longer performing, this female is no longer performing? What are we looking at in terms of years?
There's varied answers to that.
Okay.
The Brahman breed does last longer than other breeds, or their teeth, their dentition lasts longer than other breeds. So they don't get worn out. Particularly here in Mashonaland, our sow felt is very hard on the teeth. And Brahmans will last 12, 14 years. I've had some going at 18, 20 years.
Okay.
Whereas your exotic breeds that are adapted to European climate and European grasses, they will 10, 11 years, their teeth are worn out.
Oh, okay.
So our main culling procedure is when they're not performing well anymore.
Okay.
So if they can't get enough to eat because their teeth are worn or broken, they will then now start not performing and therefore not getting pregnant, therefore we'll start.
On that note, viewers, have come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, viewers, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. We are here in the third and final segment of your program. We are coming to you from Portelet Estates, and this week we are looking at Brahman production. John, we are here in the third and final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you, Wadzana. Good to have you again.
Yes. Now I want us to look at issues surrounding marketing. When it comes to marketing of your product, of your bulls, of your heifers, what are we looking at? When normally do you send your cattle to the market? If someone approaches you wanting a bull, what are we looking at?
Thank you, Wadzana. Yeah, our main focus, because it's a stud herd, is on selling bulls. We don't sell females as such. We are still building up our numbers.
Okay.
If we sell females, they are for slaughter because they haven't met the standards. But bulls is our main market. So what we do is our own marketing. We market off the farm ourselves. I'll put on my other hat now. This is my Mokono magic hat.
Okay.
So we sell bulls off the farm under the Mokono Magic project.
Okay.
This project we've had it going now, I think we are 12 years now that we've been doing this project. We sell bulls for ourselves and we sell bulls for other breeders across the country as well, of different breeds.
Okay.
So the Mokono project has become what some of our buyers have said, it is the bull supermarket. We've got everything on the shelf.
Okay.
And at an affordable price.
I would like to believe those who are watching or the consumers who approach you, some are into breeding, some are seeking to get into consumption, maybe kune mchato or there's a funeral. How do you cater for these two segments of the market? Do you specify that these are specifically for breeding, not for abattoirs? What is it like with your stud?
With the stud, I guess the price will dictate where it goes. If someone wants to pay a breeding bull price for a slaughter animal,
it's up to them.
That's their decision.
Okay.
So we do cater for that. We have had buyers coming for lobola and those things.
Yes.
And we have bulls for sale all year round, so they are available. We generally sell younger bulls than the traditional market. Traditional marketing is a 3-year-old bull, which has reached his peak in size and beauty. He looks impressive. I will sell bulls that are 2 years old onwards. They might not look to their potential, but they've got exactly the same genes as they're going to have next year.
In terms of infrastructure, what have you invested in? How do you cater for your cattle? I understand that your management style is like free grazing. They graze everywhere. But in terms of infrastructure, what have you also put in place to ensure for security, to ensure that they do not mix with cattle from other farms that might contaminate or bring in diseases?
Thank you, Wadzana. I think probably more to start with just general cattle breeding. Fences and paddocks are of paramount importance. Free range is ideal. We can't all do it. I know lots of people that are restricted with where they're grazing and they have to herd their cattle during the day and lock them in a kraal at night. If you have to do that, you have to do that.
Okay.
There is an old saying from old farmers that barbed wire is the cheapest food you can buy. Doesn't mean they eat it. It means you can protect your food. You can protect your grazing. You can protect it from other cattle coming to eat the grazing, other cattle coming in with disease, as you have mentioned. So barbed wire and fences and paddocks have increased our production of our farm from when we used to be in kraals and herded during the day.
What are your views on artificial insemination? And you as a breeder yourself, do you often sell semen? And what is your word of advice for those who want to get into cattle breeding or Brahman breeding, who would say, I have my female, I have my heifer, I'm just going to go and purchase semen? What are your views? What's your take on artificial insemination?
Artificial insemination is a good way to get numerous progeny from a single bull.
Okay.
That is its biggest advantage, that you can, if you've got a bull that is exceptional, you can spread them over the whole world if you want to. The dairy industry is a classic example where there are millions and millions of progeny from a single bull.
Okay.
So it is good on that point. Where it has its downside is that if the bull is not good, you're also spreading those poor genes around the country as well.
Okay.
So the first most important thing is to select the right bull. To select a bull from someone who breeds the cattle like you want to have yours. You can't select a bull that looks good on a photograph and he's lived in a hotel all his life and then expect him to do well in our natural environment.
As we close this segment, I want you to talk to someone who's looking to invest in cattle production. Maybe they might be in the diaspora in the UK. They are saying, I want to come back home and make a living off of cattle production, free range cattle production. What is your word of advice when it comes to that person? What would you want to say? Those pitfalls to look out for, those challenges they might encounter in their journey.
I think with those, especially those who say the diaspora, those that are not living here, that are not managing here themselves, that is a very tricky situation when you're not on the ground looking after cattle. A lot of people want to go and buy pedigree females and pedigree bull and start at the top.
Yes.
If you're not here looking after it, it's a difficult one. My advice would be to purchase females within your immediate area, which are adapted to your environment, they're adapted to your ticks, to your diseases, they know the grazing. Doesn't matter what breed they are, as long as they are adapted. And then buy the bull of your choice, which will make the influence on your herd. His progeny, the next generation, will be now in the direction you want to go.
Your sentiments as we round off this segment, your word of advice, your recommendations to our policymakers, to those who might be watching. As a country, we are making efforts of increasing the national herd. What would be your recommendations in line with increasing the national herd for those who are into policy making and formulation?
I think probably our biggest challenge with cattle is it needs space. And cropping lands can be done in a small area. Cattle need a lot of area. And security of that land is a big challenge, and yeah, we can. We as farmers, I'm got JVs with different neighbours around the area.
Okay.
Where I've got cattle grazing on their farm. Those can work, but they're also volatile.
Yeah.
You can't invest a lot of money and a lot of time in a herd of cattle. Right, I'm going to graze them on farm B. And then next week farm B is taken away from you.
Or the farmer just wakes up and changes their mind.
They might do that, or they get a better offer. Somebody comes and wants to grow tobacco there, the Mombies get chased.
Oh, okay.
So some sort of security on land. I think particularly this time of year, a major focus needs to be put on fires.
Okay.
Fires are destructing our
pastures,
natural pastures. They are absolutely annihilated by fires this time of year. And beef cattle need to graze natural grass.
Thank you so much, John, for taking your time and enlightening our audience at home in terms of how you are managing your management style with your Brahman stud. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you very much, Wazana. Thank you for your time.
There you had it, viewers. Today we are coming to you from Portelet Estates in Mashonaland West, where we are looking at Brahman stud. This Brahman stud, which he is managing and working with his team to ensure that he is sending something to the market which is of value. From me, your host Wadzanai Manyora, I'm also on Instagram, is at Wadzi110, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.